This is where the fun begins.
I'm the dumb jock who's going to entertain everybody with my football analogies to real estate.
So, give a little background. I met Drew 9 years ago in San Diego at a friend's Halloween party. I was dressed up as the Incredible Hulk, and
I actually saw it. You have pictures? Shows in the slides.
yeah, just wait. Anyways, we went to dinner the night after at sushi and started talking about real estate and investing, and we just created a relationship. He and I don't think we ever really talked football. We always talked business. Drew's got I think I'm busy, and I, need to take a nap after, see what this guy's got going on. He's got 4 kids, 3 boys, a little baby daughter, goes between New Orleans and San Diego. He says, hey, can you talk? I said, what can you talk? He said, 5:30. I said, in the morning? I said, yeah. He gets up to work on business, on everything he's got going, and make sure he's there for his family. So put a couple slides up, just some of the things here. Everybody knows Drew, is a football player, but actually, he's actually a WWF wrestler as well.
I need to work on my disguise. But the arms are real. Yeah, those are real.
So, outside of football, we'll go into this a little bit. Drew has some Jimmy John's restaurants. He's a spokesman for TRX, for Wrangler. And then he and Brittany, I'll let him speak to that, started the Brees Dream Foundation as well. So we'll get into a Q&A. I want to ask a few questions of Drew. I'd like you guys to ask a few questions of both of us as well. So I guess my first question to you is, why do you invest in real estate, and what attracted you, to multifamily and apartments?
Yeah, I think real estate, different than most investments, is it's such a tangible thing. You can see it, you can walk in it, you can touch it. Unlike I think your typical investments of maybe stocks, bonds, even investing in a company, it's not really something that you could on a day-to-day basis go and, for example, a development project, actually walk on the dirt and touch it, feel it, and then watch the process of the development take place and then see the finished product. And all those things, I think there's something to that has always attracted me to real estate, and I think the diversity of it. Whether it's the acquisition of an existing property or the development, and, what type of development is it? Is it multifamily? Is it office? Is it, mixed use? There's just so many really neat elements to real estate and the opportunities that come along with that I think attracted me to that.
So it's funny, when the Saints played the Broncos, I think 3 years ago now,
Yeah.
I picked them up at the Westin downtown, and we went by our Logan development, and we opened the garage door, and there's this guy spraying, and he sees us walk in, and he's like, sorry for the dust, man. He's like, are you Drew Brees? What are you doing here? So we had a great dinner and went on to play. Tell everybody, what other investments, outside of real estate, I put a few of the examples up here. What else are you looking at?
Well, like you mentioned with I have a full-time job, obviously, and then the 4 kids at home and our foundation, that takes up a majority of my time, but that I do, this time of year, being the off season, is when I have the opportunity to kind of dive into some of the different investments that I'm passionate about and have a great interest in. The Jimmy John's you mentioned. I've been a Jimmy John's franchisee now in the New Orleans area for the last 5 years. We have 6 stores. We're building 2 more right now, and we have a 20-store area development agreement. So we'll be on our way to 20 stores here over the next 4 to 5 years. That's been fun. That's been exciting. I really am somewhat of the day-to-day guy during the off season when it comes to the Jimmy John stuff. Finding locations, negotiating leases, kind of soup to nuts, a little bit of everything. So that's learned a lot throughout that process. Recently, I've actually joined another restaurant group on the ownership side, in which we're actually going to be franchising our, restaurant sports bar concept. So, been on the franchisee side with Jimmy John's. Now I'm kind of going to the franchisor side with this venture. Excited about that. Feel like there's a lot of perspective I can bring to that, being that I've been on the franchisee side. Kind of got into the app space this off season as well.
Why not?
Why not? Everybody's doing it. Even though I think the advice earlier was if everybody's doing it, you don't want to do it, and when nobody's doing it, that's when you want to do it. But no, it's again, without going into great detail about the app's called Gigtown, and basically what it does is it allows local musicians to go on and create a profile on the app and upload their music, so that then if you're in a city like Denver, you can go on the app, you can find out who all the local musicians are, where they're playing, when they're playing, and then potentially how much it would be if you wanted to book them for a gig. You can book them to come over to your house and play for you, or if you're hosting a party, why didn't we have a Gigtown performer here tonight? Fisk, I'd ask you, but no, it's so that's something. Again, these are things that I have a lot of interest in. This off season is a time to be able to do some of those things. I'm also invested in a company that it's a boutique tax firm that handles conservation easements, historic tax credits, Louisiana film credits specifically, and then renewable energy credits. That's something I'm very interested in. I think there's a lot of great tax benefits to that, things that are underutilized. Not a lot of people can do them just because it's such a tedious process, but the firm that I'm invested in, I've been doing deals with them for a long time, and then the opportunity came to invest in that company, and I jumped on that. So just things like that, but I try to be as diversified as possible and kind of spread myself out, to where I'm involved in, a lot of interesting things.
I'll tell you, a lot of my conversations around business with Brees, it's kind of weird calling him Drew because I always call him Brees. I'm the guy who will call him on a Sunday, trying to get him to sign a document, and he'll answer. He's like, "Fisk, we're in warm-ups. We got a game today." I'm like, "Oh, shit, God, it's Sunday." Anyways, Drew introduced me to this opportunity on the tax side. We'll be presenting it to you guys as we dig a little deeper. But for those of you that have passive losses, this tax credit and easement is a pretty interesting type return. It really helps offset any tax bills. Do you see any similarities to, from real estate that you're doing to football? And if so, what are they?
Yeah. I'd say the biggest thing is just how each deal can be so different. How is this deal going to pencil out? How are we going to attack this? Where's the opportunity here? Where's the value? And is it hey, we're acquiring something that's undervalued, and yet, we've got to come in and we can fix it up, we can increase occupancy. Man, it's a great location, but it's been mismanaged. Or is it a development opportunity where, there's great opportunity? I say the way the parallel I could draw to a football game or a season is each opponent is so different. And the way that we're going to attack each opponent, each game plan is going to be so different. Hey, this week, man, we're going to have to pound the football, we're going to have to run the football, we're going to have to control the line of scrimmage, control the clock. That's how we win this game. Whereas maybe the next game, they have a poor secondary. We're going to have opportunities to take shots over the top, make plays down the field. Big plays are going to be the key to success in this game. So I think just that difference from week to week during the football season of what it's going to take to be successful, certainly very similar to from deal to deal on the real estate side, what's it going to take to be successful, for this specific deal.
How big of a role does technology play? I had a appetizer trying to play football, and you guys, obviously technology's come a long way in real estate.
Yeah.
How does technology affect you guys?
Yeah, I mean, that was really impressive at the beginning of the presentation, the technology that you showed, on how Logan was being marketed and that sort of thing. It really paints the picture, I think, for a customer consumer. But for us, I'll give this example in regards to technology. So if you all noticed, this past season was the first season we had tablets. Microsoft Surface tablets on the sideline. Typically in the past it's been, you get these black and white pass pictures. And basically what they do is they take a snapshot of the field right before the ball snapped, and then they take a snapshot of the field right after the ball snapped when you're out there. And then they basically staple together, and when you come to the sideline you get these pass pictures, and you just flip through them just to kind of go back and track, hey, this is what we saw, or man, I didn't quite get a good look at that on the field. What did it look like from the sideline? Now it's all on the surface. And so literally it's just swipe, click. You've got every single series that's on there. So maybe there was a defensive look in the second series that all of a sudden I see again in the 10th series of the game, and I say, wait a minute, I think I've seen that before. Was that a similar look? Was that a similar pressure as to what I just saw? I can swipe right back, click on it, boom, it's right there. So it's first of all, I get it in real time right when I get to the sideline, the pictures, and then I'm able to go back and reference anything that happened in the past very, very quickly. Whereas with the past pictures, I'd have to get the guy to go grab the binder, and I'd have to flip through the binder to fly in the second series. So it makes you so much more efficient and so much more prepared than when you go back out on the field to, be decisive as to, what the other side of the ball is doing.
I know everybody's dying to know this, but do you deflate your balls?
Depends what you mean by that.
Keep it clean.
That's a mess. It's not my team. I don't care. They can have it.
We didn't rehearse any of these. I put some questions together. I talked earlier about a lasting company and forum and what we're trying to do. How and what have you guys done with the Saints to create, a lasting team? If you or another player were to get run over by a bus, as I like to say, what do you guys do, or how do you handle that?
I think it's all about culture. I think establishing a culture, a mindset that is, you're always striving to get better. You're always in a position where you believe that you're going to be successful no matter what the conditions, so market conditions or, whatever it is that's going on in our building. All of a sudden you've got injuries, and it's young guys that have to step up, and what means that we're going to still be successful because we've got these young and experienced guys that are stepping into critical roles. Well, they know what's expected of them. They've been told that. They've been given the tools to be successful. And they've got a great support system around them that's going to help them, fulfill that role. They're in a position to adapt. The type of football you're playing at the beginning of the season and winning may be completely different than the type of football you're playing at the end of the season and still winning, based upon personnel, based upon other unforeseen circumstances. So I think the culture that you build, that is this idea of, hey, everybody's ready to fulfill their role. Everybody's ready to adapt to whatever circumstances might come their way. And everybody's been given a very clear definition as to what's expected of them.
So you lost Jimmy Graham,
Yeah.
key player for you guys. How did you guys adapt to that? Obviously, he was your number one target, your favorite guy.
Well, that's a perfect example. I mean, the way I would relate that to anything that we're doing from a real estate perspective is all of a sudden something that was great yield for you is all of a sudden taken away, and you've got to find other ways to, still be successful. So the way I look at that is, listen, that's great opportunity for some of these young players within our organization to step up and have opportunities that they otherwise wouldn't have had, or maybe it would have been prolonged. There's some guys that you feel like you're just holding back at times from being successful. They're thoroughbreds, they're ready to get up and run. You just got to give them the opportunity. And so I'm never worried about what we don't have. I'm always worried about what we do have and what we can create with what we have. And so that's my standpoint with where we're at. Certain things are out of my control. So that Jimmy Graham trade was as much a shock to me as it was to, I think, all of you probably. And yet, don't control it. It's on to who is in the building, who can help us win, and my job now to help develop them to that point.
So I hit on it earlier, and I talked about expectations, and we sit down with everybody in our company and say, here's what I expect of you, and what do you need to be successful, to meet my expectations. And I guess the question I have for you are, what are the three most important expectations you have of your teammates?
I think first and foremost, it's reliability. Can I depend on you? Do I know what I'm going to get out of you each and every day? I think the worst teammate for me to have is a guy who's ultra talented, and yet I just don't know which guy I'm going to get from day to day. Is this the talented guy that is living up to his potential, or is it the guy who has come in and decided that, man, just today's not my day, and I'm not going to give you the effort that I should be, And I will take the less talented guy who I know what I'm going to get out of him each and every day 1,000 times more than I would take the ultra talented guy that I just don't know what I'm going to get. So that reliability, I think the accountability. Listen, we're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to have challenges. We're all going to have unsuccessful times, and that ability to communicate that and to work through that and to be very transparent and I think just open and honest, I think is great for bringing teams together. And then toughness. And I'm not saying just physical, toughness, football toughness, but like mental toughness. Your ability to overcome tough situations, overcome adverse situations, whether it's on the football field or in the market. It's your ability to overcome those things and always feel like, man, there's an answer out there, and it's within us. We've just got to find it. We got to stick together we know that we're going to come out ahead if we can do that.
So everybody knows I'm a very transparent person and like to call it the way it is, good or bad. And in showing kind of that transparency with you, what are the three, ways that, from an expectation standpoint that, what are the expectations that you have of us, at Forum and you as an investor?
Yeah. I think what I've always appreciated is the communication. And like you said, the open honesty, the transparency. For example, when things aren't going like the way we want with Park DIA, the ability to say, hey, listen, here's the reasoning behind it. Weather conditions have prevented this and that, and so things have been pushed back. Man, we're ready to go, but the situation is what it is. But it's nothing's being hidden or sugar coated, and I think that's what any of us want to hear, especially when things aren't going the way they should. It's just that transparent discussion. I would say again the ability to adapt to any situation that is thrown at you, a change in the market, whether good or bad, and always feeling like, this is a company that has anticipated this type of scenario and is ready to act on that. I'd say those would be, the biggest things that I feel like I've certainly seen with Forum, and definitely I appreciate, as an investor, looking in.
Great. And probably lastly, where do you think we excel and where do you think we can get better? To you as a partner and investor.
Well, I appreciate what you guys have done. I feel like you're doing a great job. I would say that the biggest thing would be that mindset of always feeling like, how can we get better? I really think it's as simple as that. We have a saying in our locker room that you're either getting better or you're getting worse. You're never staying the same. Because if you're staying the same, you're just stagnant, and at the end of the day, that's not getting better. So how do we get better? How do we continue to strengthen our company, the people within our company? How do we continue to make sure they know how much we value them and care about them? Because at the end of the day, if you want pride of ownership within your team, whatever it might be, you let them know that you care about them, then they'll care about the business.
It's funny, I hit on it one of the first slides today, our commitment to great, and I always say, look, we're never going to be great because if we're great, then we're complacent, we're not moving forward. We're always going to be good, striving to be great. So, what questions do you have for me? Do you have any?
I would just say, what do you foresee maybe being some of the biggest challenges moving forward?
I think
in the near future.
I think being patient, like we were talking about, is probably, I like to move the ball forward. So whether it's buying things, developing things, find the next opportunity, that having patience and doing nothing's okay. When I say doing nothing, that means not buying something, not developing something, but building out the right team, spending money on the technology, and constantly finding the right people. I like to say staffing, again, follows strategy. And in this business, it's really hard to find good people. The way our investment structure is set up, the people that have an effect on a property, get ownership, in a deal. And I like to say that look, just because you have ownership and you get a K1 doesn't mean you're an owner. You need to think like an owner and act like an owner in the decisions that you make. So that's how we structure this company. I think it creates longevity with employees. And again, you talk about a lasting organization. So let's open it up to you guys. Love to hear from you guys. Questions you probably don't want to hear from me anyway. So who wants to give a shot? Anthony.
Yes, I'd like to hear more about the foundation.
Sure.
Okay, awesome. So my wife Brittany and I established our foundation, the Brees Dream Foundation, back in 2003. And at that time, it was a mission to improve the quality of life for patients with cancer, especially kids. So we worked a lot with, I was drafted to the San Diego Chargers in 2001, so we were in San Diego at the time. So we worked a lot with the San Diego Children's Hospital and other cancer care organizations there. When we got to New Orleans in 2006, we really expanded the scope of our foundation to include the rebuilding efforts, because this was 6 months post-Katrina, which it's hard to believe we're actually coming up on the 10-year anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. So 85% of the city had been almost completely destroyed, and so there was so much work that needed to be done. So we kind of jumped headlong into helping to rebuild schools, parks, playgrounds, athletic fields, fund child care programs, mentoring and tutoring programs for kids, so still very much centered around kids. And so over the last 12 years, we've been able to raise our commit over $22 million. A lot of that's been in New Orleans. Some of that's been back at Purdue University, where my wife and I went to school, also still in San Diego. And we've expanded it to a national scope as well by doing big kind of philanthropic challenges. We're going to do a big event in Austin here coming up at the end of June, which is my hometown. So we'd like to start getting involved in some charity efforts there. Stuff that we're really passionate about. It's what my wife certainly handles on a day-to-day basis, and obviously I'm very involved as well. But it's something we feel very strongly about. Feel like we've been able to make a really positive impact.
What do you say in the huddle when a guy drops one that you can drop it right in there with shit?
Depends who he is. If it's Marcus Colston, I don't say a word to him because I know that he's as angry about that as I would be, and just like if I miss him on one, he doesn't come back to the huddle and say, "Why didn't you put that one right here?" But then if it's, I think in many cases it's a good question though. It basically leads me to what would be an explanation about how do you choose to lead. You have to lead certain guys in different ways, depending on how they respond to different types of leadership. Marcus Colston is I'm not going to say a word, I'm just going to go to work, I'm going to do my job, but I'm a big-time player who's going to make big-time plays in big-time situations. And so I know that, hey, is a guy going to drop a ball every now and then or run the wrong route or slip or make a mistake? Yeah, he is. So I'm not worried about him. Now, the young guy that might do it and then doesn't maybe care about it as much as I know Marcus does, well, then maybe he needs to get chewed out. But it's different for each guy depending on where they're at in their career and the type of person they are and the way that they respond to that type of leadership.
Can you tell us about the onside kick in the Super Bowl? How did Coach Payton tell the team about that? Did everybody know about it?
Is everybody familiar with that? So we played in Super Bowl. We won Super Bowl 44, beat the Indianapolis Colts. So that was the 2009 football season. So at halftime, to open up the third quarter of the game, we were losing 13-10. Our coach decided to kick an onside kick, and we got the ball. We went down and scored, and really had the momentum for the rest of the game and won. But obviously, that was a big decision in the game. That's one of those, where you get it, the greatest call in the world, and if you don't get it, then it was the dumbest call in the world, dumbest call in Super Bowl history. But we got it, and that play was nicknamed Ambush, rightfully so. So I think the great thing about that was for 2 weeks, we had 2 weeks of preparation for the Super Bowl. We put that play in literally the Monday after the NFC Championship game. And Sean said, it's not a matter of if we're going to call this, it's when. I'm going to call it, and it's going to work. And so we practiced it every day. 10 times a day. And it just got in everyone's mindset, again, that it's not, nobody had any doubts as to whether it was going to get called. So there was no anxiety like, oh, I hope he doesn't call it, I'm nervous that, I might have to be the guy who jumps on it, whatever. It was, we're going to call it and it's going to work. So it was that mindset. And sure enough, we call it, we kick it, we jump on it, it works, we go in and score, we win the game. Greatest call in Super Bowl history.
Drew, it seems like you're obviously big into business, and so when you're finally done playing football, how do you anticipate spending all that extra free time and besides with your family?
Well, well. First of all, I hope I can play for. Really, I'm going to try to play as long as I can. But in our business, it is truly 1 year at a time, and it's kind of just what have you done for me lately mentality. So you got to prove it each and every year, and that's fine because I think that brings out the best in all of us. So I hope to play for a long time, but. Right now I'm trying to establish a lot of those things so that it is a smoother transition leaving the game. I know that a lot of guys, can have trouble transitioning from the game, but I think that's in many cases guys who kind of have their identity wrapped up in being a football player rather than, being a husband, being a father, being a community leader, that kind of thing. So I think from a business standpoint, certainly I'm trying to put myself in a position where it is an easy transition out of the game. But there's so many things I want to try, want to do, want to learn about, kind of want to put myself out there towards. That really for me, I think it's going to be the balance. It's going to be the life balance, of first and foremost, husband and father all the way. Then it's foundation. The foundation will continue to be very, very important to us and what are our goals there. And then from a business perspective, what time can I devote to the different things that I'm passionate about?
You didn't graduate from Tulane, but I read that you've been very generous with them. Can you say a little about that?
Well, that actually started, so back in 2011, we had the lockout. So the NFL owners locked us out. We were going through a little CBA negotiations. And so we were not allowed into our team facilities. So that entire offseason, it was kind of the Wild West. I mean, if you were going to work out or organize team activities, you had to do it on your own. So I went to the staff at Tulane, went to the athletic director and the president, and asked if we could use the facilities, kind of worked out a deal with them. And basically we did a 6-month training program there with our team. And I think we had some of the best attendance of any team across the league. And 60, 70 guys there every day. It was awesome. And at the end of it, just to show some appreciation, we did a couple fundraisers. We actually did a raffle where people could come and work out with us and practice with us and go through 7-on-7 with us and catch balls and do cool stuff. And all the money that we raised, we donated back to the university, and it went towards actually their physical therapy program. So I can't take credit for that. That was a group effort. But had a chance to speak at their commencement 2 years ago. Actually, Tulane is literally 2 blocks away from my house in New Orleans. So we have strong relationship with them, strong connection. I mean, that's our neighborhood.
Josh.
Seems like a natural business endeavor for a lot of high-profile athletes to get into the restaurant business. Just curious what it is that pulled you in and where it's going next.
The first thing, again, I think day one at the NFL Players Symposium, for the rookies, it's don't invest in restaurants. And basically, you obviously have to do your homework and know who you're getting in business with. But I think at the end of the day, how involved are you going to be? How active are you? And I'd say with the Jimmy John's franchise, the funny thing there was, how many people are familiar with Jimmy John's, by the way? Good deal. So when I got to Purdue University in 1997, Jimmy John's started in Charleston, Illinois in 1983 at Eastern Illinois University. And then Jimmy started building stores kind of throughout the Midwest. Well, Purdue was like his 5th store. So that store was really close to Purdue's campus. So in 1997, living in Wiley Hall with the rest of the fellas, I was ordering Jimmy John's delivery, number 9, no cheese with hot peppers, 3 times a week, all right? So love Jimmy John's. I mean, it was like a part of my college experience. So then I go to San Diego, no Jimmy John's. Go to New Orleans, no Jimmy John's. But I'd always go back to Purdue, and when I was there, I would eat Jimmy John's 2 meals a day. So I'm sitting there, like, about to take a bite of a number 9, and 5, 6 years ago, and I'm like, I don't know why I don't franchise this down in New Orleans. This would be a huge hit. This is something I would really enjoy doing. Well, oddly enough, a guy who was a walk-on at Purdue I had played football with was now the VP of operations for Jimmy John's. We had stayed in touch. I texted him. I said, how can I open up a Jimmy John's down in New Orleans? He said, well, we just opened up that territory. Are you serious? And I said, yes. So that began the process. I actually went up to Jimmy John's for training along with our other partners. We kind of handpicked our operators. We work with them on a daily basis. There's not a day we're not exchanging text messages, emails. I get all the financials every night. I look at them, ask questions. So very involved in the business, whereas if you're not, then you're not staying on top of those things, and you're not sure what can happen. So I feel like that's been a great venture. It's been a fun venture. I've learned a lot, and we've been successful.
So you've obviously put together a pretty strong set of principles as to how you coach and manage the players around you. Who's been big influences and mentors in your life?
You know what? I've got about, I'd say nine people that I can really point to and say, these are great mentors in my life. And at different levels, some of them are coaches, some of them are friends, some families, some former players, guys that I've had the true blessing to be around and have had great influence in my life. And whenever it's one of those things that when I go to young players, when young players come to me and kind of seek advice on different things, it's one of the first things I tell them is find guys that you're trying to emulate, that can be mentors for you, and constantly just take in as much as you can from them. And because at the end of the day, you know, we're gonna face plenty of struggles, and when you have people like that in your life that can either get you pointed back in the right direction or really help you through a tough time, or just help you grow as a person and as a player and whatever it might be. I think that's one of the most important things you can have in life is those type of people around you.
You know, we've heard a lot about leadership and the culture, and I think transparency today. I mean, Drew, if you were the NFL commissioner down the road, Drew, how would you continue to build on the NFL brand and the legacy, or what changes would you make, to continue to make the NFL as strong as it is today?
Yeah. That is a tough question. Yeah. I think the thing that's been, I guess, the most, well, first of all, I'm blessed to have the opportunity to play in the NFL, to play professional football for a living now, going on my 15th year. So to have that opportunity and know that that's really on the backs of the guys that came before us. And the game is as popular today as it ever has been. NFL revenues, which translates directly to salaries, is as high as it has ever been, and their projections for the next 15 years are kind of off the charts. So blessed with the timing and just the opportunity to be in this position. I think that the most disappointing thing that from my perspective is just the relationship between players and NFL management. I was on the executive committee for the NFL Players Association for 8 years, so I was part of those negotiations back when we were renegotiating our CBA in 2011, when we were locked out, and I was flying on red-eye flights from San Diego to Washington like every other weekend to sit across the table from the owners and negotiate, and Goodell and the rest of them. And I think just the animosity that's been built up, the mistrust, listen, is there always going to be a little bit of that when it comes to negotiations and that kind of thing? Yeah, I guess, but it could be a lot better. It could be a lot better. And certainly I think with the way that the commissioner discipline has really just this kind of, his ability just to kind of sit back and be judge, jury, executioner when it comes to everything. I think we certainly feel like there's no transparency when it comes to that. It's basically this decision and this is the way it is, and we don't really have to show you what's happened with the investigation or kind of let you behind the curtain at all. It is what it is, and you kind of have to live by it. And we're in our own little world with this CBA, and it's kind of the rest of the the federal courts and everything else don't really apply to what we're doing here. So at times that's been favorable, and at times it certainly has not. So I think just that portion of it, and the animosity that's been built up between players and management, I think is the part that most frustrates me, and I hope can get better. And that would be my urging to both sides moving forward.
Anything else?
Hope we didn't end on a somber note there.
Hold on, I still got to here and see. Unfortunately on the screen it doesn't show the whole body because the guy's got abs, like a 10-pack, and I don't know if that's you or not. But I have to tell you, I couldn't ask for a better friend, a better business partner than Brees here. The guy, as you can tell, has a million things going on. He flew in today at 2:30. He's flying out tonight at 7:30 to be with his family. And he didn't have to do this, but that's how he treats everybody. That's what attracted me to him. There are other people, they always say, look, we don't always need more and more money. We want to do business with our friends and our buddies, and there are risks that go along with doing that. But there's no better guy that I could be a part with than you. Appreciate that. I know one thing that's dear to your heart is your Brees Dream Foundation. I'd like for him to donate $10,000 to your foundation. Appreciate you coming out and doing that.